Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of X4 the Absolute Beginner's Guide. Today we're going to be discussing the X Universe map system basically and how it's basically built up and generated. Every map's the same on every gameplay you'll play through. It's set up the same way, so once you know it once you'll always know it. However, there's a couple of things that we want to point out. The main system stuff like the wharf, shipyard, and where the representatives begin are all the same. The differences are the factories. They are completely random and generated per gameplay, so just bear that in mind. Right, that out of the way, let's talk about the map itself. To get the map up whenever you're out of the map, anywhere you are, press the M key. You can also get it from pressing the three little star thing there.
Awaiting orders.
You'll zoom in. This zoom in is called the micro scale. You can see that any large ships, you can see the outline of them. You can see small ships, you can see deployables. So this is the military deployable there, which is a laser turret. And you're also getting information about the call signs of each ship, who they belong to, and what they are. Each of the logos and stuff like that, and all of these logos, every single one of them. And as you zoom out, you see some of them disappear now. We're now in the macro scale. With any of them logos or anything, if you're ever unsure, you can go to Legend and it tells you everything you need to know about the map or what's on the map. And obviously what each of these orders are. The white ones are the orders. You can see there. If you're ever worried about what they actually mean, that's what it does. These little icons as well also appear next to stuff when you give them orders, so you'll see that in a minute. So there's your Legend there to keep an eye out on things if you don't know. The next thing is the colour. The colour represents the faction. And if you're playing just a standard one without the DLC, then you'll notice and recognize all of them factions there. They are what they are. I'm not going to discuss the factions right now because there are some differences in variation to stuff that I don't want to go into right now because it'll spoil some of the storyline for some people who want to play it fully through. So we'll discuss that at a later stage. One thing I do want to discuss is you'll notice there's a slight difference. So these here are clusters, which basically a cluster is a part of a solar system. You've got sectors within the clusters. Now, obviously, each of these clusters is just one sector. This is two sectors. Sectors are generally linked together by superhighways. Them there. Then between each cluster, you've got jump gates. And between two sectors that are quite a distance out, so not quite close together, but they're not quite two full clusters, they're linked together by an accelerator. An accelerator is slightly different. That's an accelerator there, and it operates exactly the same way as a jump gate does. They're bi-directional, so you come in one end and you come out the other end, and if you turn around and go back, it does the exact same thing again, and you come out the same gate. Superhighways are omnidirectional, so that they go, so as soon as you hit the platform, it'll go in one direction. There are arrows on both sides. So I'll send the ship now to go and investigate. Here we go. So if we head on over here, we'll get an idea of a couple of them. Clicked off my ship. Back on. Fly to. Now, while the ship's flying, you'll notice I'm going in and out. That's the mouse wheel. To drag it around, it's left click and drag around. If you right click, you can orientate it on a different plane. You can flip it completely around if you really want to. Why you want to look at it upside down is beyond me. You'll notice that if I turn it like so,
second contact,
it reorientates the names,
flashpoint.
but it doesn't reorientate it if I'm looking at it from below, so just bear that in mind. If you are kind of off skew, if like so, you can just hit this button here and it goes back to the top view. I'm not going to talk about these couple of icons here, these that have appeared. We'll discuss that at a later stage. We're almost at the jump point already. What I do want to talk about is a couple of things. The filter settings I'm going to discuss when we do trade, so don't worry about them. Just bear in mind that this icon here does exactly the same as this icon here. We'll set that to do trades. Information is exactly the same as information. Just depends what side of the screen you want it on. Sometimes when you're trying to do information between two ships, it's good to have that information up on one side, and then you can deal with something on the other side, or whatever you want to do, or whatever way you're orientated around. So it's useful to have it on one or the other side. Okay, let's talk about the important things. First of all, what are all these here? The object list is all the objects that you can see.
Requesting immediate backup.
You'll notice that all of ours are on there because they're green. They're all ours, the green ones. However, we've got stations. So the stations that we can pick up on a macro scale are on this list. If we zoom in, you'll notice that my list of owned ships is smaller, but I've got other stuff on there. As you get in and zoom in, it shows you what you can see in your zone. I think it's just slightly out of the zone, so you can get things that are coming on its way in as well. It'll also tell you the reputation of who they're with. So the sector that I've got activated at the moment, which is Second Contact 7, is owned by the Antigone Republic. If I click on it, you'll see that they change. It'll tell you which one you'd like to click on, which is there. And that's important when you come to manage plots, and I'll explain why in a second. You can filter it down even more to just having stations and subordinates, ships, or just deployables. At the moment, the only deployable I can detect is my wormhole deployable, which will make more sense when we start talking about the first mission. Further to that, we've got property owned. That's everything that we own. Now it's taking out all of the other stuff out. If I click on the right one, stations and stick. You can see everything now. Again, you can further drop that down to stations and subordinates. You get the option for fleets. We've got one fleet there. And unassigned ships. Basically, that's ships that aren't assigned to fleets. If you remember when I said about the legend and getting them icons, there are all the icons there. You can see them there. Yep. You can see them all. If you've got them where they've got that, this whole position, they are held and won't do anything. They'll just sit there. The mine resource or the sector auto mine and stuff like that means they're doing stuff and don't worry about them. The ones you need to deal with are the ones that say hold position. Because they've been told to hold position. So they're the ones that you might need to necessarily look at. You've got ships with inventory. If your ship holds an inventory, which is a personal inventory, so items that you can store yourself on your person, they can be collected via, drop loot boxes, ship explosions, stuff like that. Sometimes they pick up stuff. You can right click that and you can tell them to deposit inventory, which will deposit to your HQ. Good to have that. And the last one is all your deployables. So whether you've got them in range or not, they will all be there. So you can quickly highlight one and you can try and dig it out from somewhere. Hard to kind of see them. So you can see the wormhole picks up there. You'd have to zoom in to see the other ones. If you are patient enough, you'd be able to find it. You can see when we get to the macro. There you go. Oh, we found it. That was a good guess, wasn't it? You can see it'll highlight it with that little white marker there. Pretty self-explanatory, but green, friendly. Blue, when I say friendly, it's owned by you. Blue is neutral. They're your friendly forces. And red, the enemy. Nice and easy. Mission offers. Important missions are missions that kind of progress things on. Guild missions are reputation missions. And other mission offers of things that are offered to you. Things like, you can get a seminar or, an item or whatever it is. You get them there. Mission manager. What missions? That's the one we just discussed. Will progress the story on. Or it'll get you things like promotions. Upkeep missions, if you've got stations, which we'll come to, you'll get upkeep missions. They come and go all the time. They generally don't give you any rewards either. And they don't have a time limit. Guidance missions are missions you set yourself. So if I click here and set guidance to object, it becomes a guidance mission. I can then tell somebody to... I can't tell somebody to do guidance mission because it's my personal mission. I then have to do it myself and it'll give me like a little icon. So if I go to here and set, you see, it becomes a mission which will pop up in there and it gives me this little orange coloured line which will tell me where I should go to get there. If I sit in a pilot seat and set autopilot, that will follow the guidance mission. You can right click here and stop guidance, or you can do it from there as well. Yep. information we've already discussed, and manage plots. Now, if you remember when I said about what sector you clicked in, if you press manage plots and everything disappears, it's because you weren't clicked in the sector you expected to be in. Zoom out, and that's the one we were clicked in. Mentioned zones, or I may not have mentioned zones, but if I hadn't mentioned zones, these are zones. Jump gates, systems, like, factories and stuff like that, all have zones. You can't build next to a zone. I'm not going to create a plot because I don't want to pay for it. There's all of our plots that you can see there. You can't see anything else because it'll only show you the one, so it makes it nice and easy to work with. It's a little weird where it removes the hexagon. It's supposed to be so you can see kind of the clusters and stuff like that, because you get nebula, debris and stuff like that that you can avoid. But to me, I find it a little bit of a pain to work from that, but there you go. If you have clicked on that wrong and you're like, oh, I didn't want to work in that, you can then click on one of these, and as you can see, it'll tell you which one you clicked in.
Requesting
It'll also tell you
immediate
your actual resources, which is sunlight. So if you're building an energy bank, definitely want sunlight. I believe most of the sectors have sunlight. I haven't actually come across one on builds that I purposefully looked for that hasn't got sunlight. And it also tells you how many known stations there are, what main production it is. So the main production in that area is pharmaceutical goods. So if you're going into pharmaceuticals, the likelihood is you're going to have competition. If you need pharmaceuticals to produce something else, there is somewhere where you can place a station that can then obviously claim off other things. It tells you your population, which is just basically how many people are on each station, and who owns it, and obviously the name of it. If you own it, your name would be there, but it is not there, so we don't own it. So again, if I click on here, like so, go to manage plots, same again, you get all the sectors. You can sometimes see stations that aren't actually visible, but it's a little hard to work it out, and yeah, it's just best not trying to do it that way. But there you go. That's that. I'm not going to go through too much with plots because I want to go through that when we come to station building, so we can discuss it in more detail though. But I just kind of want to cover it on the map because it's important. So that's the map in general. You can then sort things if you want to, if you really want to. You can also search for trade stuff in there if you want. I believe you can set elite. Yeah, there you go. You see all the elite vanguards on there. It'll also do names, which is useful to find out sometimes if you've got, you know, loads of stuff everywhere and you need to find something important, then that'll find you. The other thing I want to comment on is these little icons here. These are your faction representatives. That there means there's also a faction representative. If the faction representative is dead, then the little icon above will go down. But that's basically the faction's HQ. But you kind of both mean the same. So that's basically it. There's not really much more to it. The only other thing we can discuss are things like orders, which we're going to discuss right now. The other thing I wanted to talk about, obviously, was the jump gate. That's the jump gate, and that's the highway. The highway and the super highway are basically the same thing. But the super highway itself is much bigger, and it's got like a gate at the side, at the front of it as well. The local highways tend to link between jump gates as well.
Can I help? Goodbye.
Jump off that a second, thank you. Let's go ahead and sit down. Oh, I've got my steering already on. Alright, let's head over to the local highway, or the super highway, whichever way you want to call it.
Highway, Argon Prime.
It's just a standard highway. Let's go a little bit quicker. Ignore what I'm doing right now. We will discuss all this when we come to actual ship moving and stuff like that. I don't want to take too much into it. There we go. Right, so looking at it from this direction, it's kind of hard to see what direction it's actually going. 9 times out of 10, the right side takes you that way. If you skim it,
System. True sight.
it will take you along it nice and easily. And you've got these little highway gates, which are kind of cool. They also have arrows as to which direction to go. Pull yourself off, just lift up. We'll discuss more, obviously, when we come to traveling. Never go headfirst into it. Go headfirst into it, it causes damage to your ship sometimes. I think we got a little bit of damage there. You see here, look, it's got all the arrows telling you which direction it goes, and it leads straight into a jump gate. That's pretty much all you need to know about kind
Entering
of jump
system.
gates.
Second contact.
I'll just jump it off here like so. There we go. I'm going to jump back up, and we'll discuss how you can tell which direction they go on the map.
Elite. Vanguard.
You can see these arrows here, these lines here. You can kind of tell the direction in which they're going from the lines. Either going in one direction or the other. We were on the right hand side here for a minute, and that was traveling that direction. Whichever side you're looking, the right hand side will go the direction you're facing, the left hand side goes the opposite direction. If I turn around, it's exactly the same. If I'm upside down, it's not. But just bear that in mind. Make sure you're aligned with the planes. So that's basically your traveling stuff. The only other thing to discuss is fog of war and how to deal with it. If you select a ship and right click, you get various orders that you can give to it. Whatever you've got selected is what you're giving orders to. We can't give orders to something that doesn't belong to us. We can't also give orders to our stations, to stations we don't own. We can select a station we do own. There's no orders that we can give. See? No orders you can give. However, if we select our Elite Vanguard, there are orders we can fly to, which is basically simple. Fly to it. Explore, which explores the area that it selects, and you'll see where the exploration area is. You can also move that by left clicking it. You can guide it a little bit closer to it. It'll generally find stuff that it goes, explore is slow as hell. It goes into more detail into looking for things. You've also got update trade offers, and it'll go around stations looking for what trades it can find. You can tell it to collect drops if you find an area with drops. There you go, see, it'll look for an area there with any drops to find. You can right click and remove this order, remove all orders, and remove all orders and wait. We remove this order. Attack targets in range. There's no targets in range, and we don't want it to attack because it's got no shields. And you got deployments. I'm going to discuss the deploying of civilian and military deployables when we come to doing things like trades and combat. That's where they're more important. But they basically deploy things that we've seen on the map already, like the resource probes. You can also deactivate the resource probes from here, which is useful if you don't want to use it anymore, so you don't want the information coming up. Obviously, the information isn't coming up at the moment for me, but I can get it to come up if I want it to. Again, if you select trades on there, you can kind of see it overlaps, which is a little bit of a pain in the ass sometimes. Deactivate it. There we go. It'll also take it off a funny colour as well. So now,
Entering second contact.
now that that's
7.
deactivated, it's not used by the mining ships and stuff like that, but it can be a little annoying that. There we go. But you'd have it off like that. Oh, it's still up. Just a pain. Absolute pain. Right, there we go. But there's the deployables. That's what they look like. We'll discuss them more when we come to doing trades and stuff like that. They are useful then, by the way. Don't think they're not, because they are. Okay. The only other thing I've not discussed is the shape of the ships. Head to your legend, check them out on there. Much easier doing it that way, so you can kind of get it in your head what everything is. It's self-explanatory. Anything without a line is basically tier 1, small. One line is tier 2, medium, blah blah blah. But there we go. Different ships have different orders that you can give. Generally, they've all got the same order to give when you right-click something that's nothing. Click off it again and go to station. I actually click on the station. There we go. You get more orders. You can tell it to protect, dock at, transfer crew with. Transfer crew is also done via the player information, which we'll discuss again at a later stage. You've got upgrade and repair at if it was a repair station or something like that. You can trade with or transfer words with. If we go to one of our stations, trade with or transfer with. One that's not owned by us, you can only trade with. Difference. Transfer words is exactly how it sounds, basically free. You can also assign now, which so if you have one of your stations, you can assign it to defend, or you can trade, for commander's build storage. We'll discuss more of that when we come to doing the trades and combat, and creating fleets as well. That's pretty much everything on the map that you kind of need to worry about. There are a couple of little teeny weeny bits that we've not covered, which we will cover when it comes to combat and trades as well. Hopefully that's kind of giving you an overview of the map. It's very useful. I use the map all the time. I generally play through the map more often than not, so it's more of a Stellaris feel for me. I don't tend to go in as a first person flying around and stuff. It's generally what I avoid, but I do sometimes go into combat with flying the ship. But doing a mouse, it's a little bit harder to control them. The only other thing we haven't discussed is just these here that I didn't mention. Don't worry about them at the moment. We'll discuss them when it comes to doing trading and stuff like that. These are basically your subordinates. No use to you whatsoever at the present moment until you start looking at your own station. But that's going to be us for this episode. Let me know in the comment section if you've got something that you do need to know that's specific, or something I might have missed, or something you may not have understood. Let me know. I'll get back to you. If you want to have more of a back to back conversation with me, back and forth conversation with me, I should say, then let me know in the Discord. Join the Discord and we'll have a back and forth. And if I can't help you, someone else might be able to help you. You know, sometimes people play in a different way. Like I said on episode 1, I don't tend to do everything in the game. I tend to avoid things like going in and actually sabotaging stations and stuff like that, which you can do. I've never covered it on my guides because I don't generally play that. So when somebody asks me something about sabotage, I wouldn't be the best person to ask at this stage. During this guide, I will, however, be spending a lot of time in my own personal saves, kind of getting used to that stuff and getting it in, because obviously I know everything surrounding it, but I don't know how to put it into practice, so I'll practice it and then bring it through to the guide. But there are people in the Discord who play X4. It's not solely X4, but there are a lot of people there who do know the game, who can help you hopefully. But until next time, everybody, take care for now. I shall see you on this one. Bye bye for now.